our menu toolbar. Select the magic wand tool and select the colored section of your canvas. Select the Create New Layer button and rename this new layer as Toolbar Shine. This will represent light coming from above. Set your foreground color to white, then select the Gradient tool. Select a foreground to transparent scheme, then a linear gradient, then a screen mode. Select an opacity of 40%. Now, click and drag from the uppermost part of your toolbar whilst holding Shift to the lowermost part of your toolbar, and you will notice that now you have light coming from above. Create a new layer and call this layer Toolbar Shadow. Change the foreground color to black. Using the Gradient tool, select a foreground to transparent scheme, linear gradient, screen mode, and an opacity of 20%. Click from the bottommost part of your toolbar whilst holding Shift to the middle part of your toolbar, and you will notice that now you have a dark shadow. Select the Select menu and then the Deselect option. Using the magnifying glass, select the leftmost part of your toolbar, then right-click on the rectangle layer and select the blending options. Select the outer glow option, change the blend mode to multiply, select the black color, and change the size to 3 pixels. Click OK. Save your document by clicking on the File Save As option and make sure that the format is Photoshop format. Click Save. Select OK for maximizing compatibility. With the magnifying glass, right-click on the canvas and select Fit on Screen. Click on the View menu, then select the Clear Guides option. Let's create 3 guides at 45 pixels, another at 50 pixels, and one last guide at 855 pixels. We shall now use the Slice tool and click the slices from guides. This will create 4 distinct images. Select the File Save for Web option and make sure that the GIF format is selected and 256 color setting is set. Click on the Save button and make sure that you are saving images only. Click on the Save button. Let's review our work, and we will notice that we have one Photoshop file called Menu Toolbar and an Images folder. In the Images folder, we will see our 4 images. Let's delete the largest image and rename the rest as follows. The first one will be Menu Left Side. Next, we have Menu Spacer. And finally, the Menu Right Side. It is good practice to save again in a separate file by clicking File Save As. This time, Menu Toolbar Sliced, always Photoshop format. Click Save, then OK. This concludes the first part of our web development lecture, where we have seen how to design a website menu. During the next part of this lecture, presented to you by Mr. Aaron Guzman, we shall see how to actually implement this menu in a website.
Hello, my name is Aaron Guzman and I am taking over the tutorial from Mr. Frankie Iguanes. Okay, the aim of this part of the tutorial is for me to show you how to implement the horizontal menu of a website. Okay, let's go over the implementation objectives. At first, we'll review the graphics that I usually use in web development. Right, the file types, and that are usually used in web development. Then we'll go over the syntax, which is HTML and CSS. These are two different presentation languages used in web development. Then we'll literally implement the menu in a website using a web development tool, and then we'll just review and go over what we've done. Okay, so graphics in web development. There are three different types of files that are mainly used in web development. There are others, but they are not so popular, so we'll go over these three. JPEG files. JPEG files are image files which are usually good for photos. Why is there an image file which is not good for photos? Yes, for example, GIF files are not really good for photos. One would ask why. Basically, GIF files can support only 256 colors. What would that mean? It would mean that you will lose most of the colors which are usually present in a photograph. Okay, so if you are going to present a photograph over a website, basically it would have to be in a JPEG file format because it supports millions of colors. A GIF file wouldn't support so many colors. It would only support 156 colors. So if we see an example of a JPEG file, you would get this. This is the nice Valletta waterfront in Malta. Right? And if we see an example, a good example for GIF files, you would get this, which is a logo which essentially has only very few colors. I can see only three right now, which is blue, orange, and white, but there would obviously be some shades in blue, right, somewhere around the logo. However, it would not exceed 256 colors. Then there's the third type of file, which is PNG file. Right? It is both good for photos, and it has one of the biggest advantages of GIF files, which is supporting transparencies. Right? PNG is good for photos and supports transparency. What do we mean by transparency? For example, here we have this funny smiling gorilla. Alright, although we cannot see it, this gorilla, this photo has a hole inside, and here's the proof. Right, that's my face, and now I've presented myself to the full. Okay, that's all about graphics in web. Now let's examine what technologies we're going to use. HTML and CSS, both are presentation languages. These languages help you organize content over a screen, over a browser, a web browser. Okay, this is what we call a wireframe, these boxes. Right, and wireframes help you plan where to position and what content do you actually need. So here we've decided we need to display a site logo and the title of a site. We need to display a menu, a banner, textual content, and some footer links and credits. Basically, you use HTML to formulate these boxes, these what we call content placeholders. Then you use CSS to decorate these boxes to make them look nice, basically. So if we replace the plan with what we actually want, okay, you can see that we have the logo, the menu, the banner, the textual content, and the footer. Now that we've seen basically what's the difference between HTML and CSS, we can immediately go and start develop the menu, implementing the web menu. Okay, I'm going to use Visual Studio as a web development tool. Obviously, this can be done in any other HTML editing tool.